Well, you know, the strength that you exemplify here is just amazing to me. I've long said that it's ordinary people doing extraordinary things that I think I'm most impressed with. And people wake up and something happens and they don't think they're going to be sitting in this situation, and here you are testifying before Congress. And I want you to know in your heart it does make a difference, and that it's incumbent upon all of us to learn those lessons as clearly and as succinctly as you can. The person that is suspected of committing this, or that committed this murder, what had this person done previously that you, in your mind, justifies deportation?
Well, first of all, he was 16 or 17 when he was, or 15 or 16 was he identified in Arizona, I believe, and he was released to his brother, who was another illegal. You know, to me, they should have been both deported at that time. You're both entering the country illegally. You know, there's two. If he would have been deported, we wouldn't be in this boat right now. And then the traffic offenses he committed, where he was going the wrong way and didn't failure to show up for that, I think, and he might have had a couple other. I know he had one where he didn't seatbelt a child in. I mean, I don't have that information right in front of me. I know he had 2 or 3 other times where he was supposed to be in court and he didn't show up. This was prior to the incident with my daughter. And that, you know, with the judge deal, that should have been all public record. I mean, in this day and age, you know, you should be able to push that computer and it should show everything. And prior to releasing him, he was in jail for 4 days, 4 to 5 days. So, you know, they were claiming they didn't know his immigration status, and the county prosecutor didn't, you know, give us this information. And to me, you know, that's, you know, if a guy's in jail for 4 days, it gives you plenty of time to figure it out. You know, you should have done 15 minutes, pretty much all of it. I mean, I don't do legal work, but it's just a common sense issue, you know. And the way his name is spelled, and I'm not trying to be prejudiced, because like I said, my mother was an immigrant. That would probably tell you that he's probably, you know, not, you know, just like Bob Smith or something, you know. You might want to do a background check. Just common sense, you know, not to the point where even where you're a judge and you're supposed to be highly educated to protect the public. To me, you failed.
Yeah, and Mr. Burbank, look, you served the people of Utah for a long period of time. And I may not be able to convince you or change your mind, but I do want to offer another perspective. I want you to be able to offer another perspective, and I want to offer one as well. Because I believe in the principle of restitution. You steal a candy bar, you put it back, or you pay for it. You break a window, you pay for it. You're here illegally, you go home. And so I think you do it, for me personally, I think you do the need for some immigration reform, which I agree with. I think we need to fix legal immigration. I think it's broken. I think we're failing those people who are trying to do it legally and lawfully. But we're doing it to the advantage of the people who do break the laws and just blow past the laws of the land. And I think we need to stand more firm as a nation and say we are a nation of laws. And if you break them, there's a consequence to that. And right now, that's what I don't see happening. And that's what I see time and time again, just being dismissed as, well, that wouldn't have really helped. And there are a couple of things that you said that I'd like to ask you about. You said we couldn't deport our way out of this, but for somebody who's committed a serious crime, who's here illegally, remember, they're here illegally, they committed a crime, they're convicted of that crime, why shouldn't they all be deported? Why should we stand for that?
If they've committed a serious crime, I don't think there's a police chief in the nation that's not going to tell you they shouldn't be deported or dealt with appropriately. But we should not move outside the laws or the Constitution in order to obtain that. Now, we have unfortunate circumstances where people fall in a category, but our criminal justice system adjudicates this. Now, if part of that is they are adjudicated and then we fail, I mean, there's no question we've identified today that there's failures in the system.
So would you agree that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement is required by law to have a minimum of 34,000 beds, but they're only in the 30,000 range. That means there's a good, in any time, 2,000 to 4,000 people that should be detained, could be detained, that the Congress funded to be detained, and they don't do that. Now, You don't work for ICE. You don't work for Homeland Security. But can you see the frustration that there are literally thousands of people that are here illegally as criminal aliens and they're not being detained? Not because they haven't been funded, not because it's not the law, just because the Homeland Security folks and the Obama administration decide, no, that's probably not in our best interest. But why is that not in the best interest of the United States of America?
If we have identified individuals, interestingly enough, I did work with ICE in order to come up with those people and to try and make the major city chiefs of the United States say, yes, we should deport those people who have committed serious criminal acts.
Do you think driving under the influence falls to that level?
I think laws such as that fall into the category that they should be adjudicated as they do with someone else. We've identified a shortcoming. Do you realize there are people driving around in this country now that are citizens that have 4 and 5 DUI arrests in the past that we haven't dealt with appropriately either? And so we're looking
but
at
I'm asking you, for somebody who's here illegally and convicted of a DUI, do you believe they should be immediately deported?
A DUI is a Class B misdemeanor in the state of Utah.
I'm asking you, do you?
No, I do not.
So you think somebody who's here illegally drives under the influence, it's in the best interest of this country to leave them in the United States?
I think it's in the best interest of this country to follow the standards set forth so that you have equal.
I'm asking you what you think the standard should be. I deport all of them. You commit a crime in this country, you're out of here. Guess what? You did jump to the front of the line. That's the deportation line. So why shouldn't we deport that person?
Well, and this is where you and I absolutely disagree, because I think that we have a practice in place in how we adjudicate things, and I think there needs to be some fairness and equity in that system. And when there's not, when we identify people and they have harsher penalties because of the color of their skin or the language.
No, wait. I never said anything about the color of their skin. That's your words, not mine. I never said that. I said they're here illegally. And that knows no bounds, right? Name a country that doesn't have somebody here illegally. It happens from the entire world. Why shouldn't we deport that person?
One, I don't think we have the capacity to reach that. And then two, this is the same.
So you think it's saving money is more important?
No. But what I'm telling you is, this is no different than tax code. This is a civil penalty. It's not a criminal penalty enforceable in the state of Utah as a crime.
This is where
you can only be detained and deported for this. You cannot be jailed or fined for being in the country undocumented.
And you should be deported. That would solve all the problems. That would solve all the problems right there. My time has expired. We'll now recognize Mr. Grothman of Wisconsin.
Thank you. I'm not going to follow up with Mr. Burbank, but my goodness, kind of incredible how we have people who don't want to enforce their immigration laws. We'll go with Mr. Martin. Chief Martin, could you, just in general, you've been involved in law enforcement for quite a while. When were you first involved in law enforcement in California?
1973.
Okay, so you've seen a lot. Could you describe the difference in the way the immigration laws of this country, say, have been enforced, say, in 1975 and the way it is today?
Well, I can tell you from a perspective in Los Angeles, when I worked the Los Angeles County Jail, we used to have INS agents at the time working inside our jail. So every person that was booked into the Los Angeles County Jail, they were screened by, at that time, INS has now become ICE. So there's a change there. Then I've seen changes just through administrations. You see the differences, 70s into the 80s. And now we see it to the point where it's like I testified earlier, it's like catch and release. It's at the point now where at the local level, it's saturation. And we're having a very difficult time dealing with it in Santa Maria and other places too.
Are you seeing that people who would have been deported 40 years ago today, either due to lack of resources or maybe kind of Mr. Burbank's attitude of, we don't care who comes in this country very much? What do you see a difference in whether somebody would be deported or not 40 years ago compared to today?
Yes, I do. And what we saw in the 70s and 80s was when you would have 1 or 2 convictions, you would normally be deported. Victor Martinez was arrested 6 times in 15 months, and he was never deported, not even on a list to be deported. So therein lies the actual evidence.
Do you get any feeling, and it's to a certain extent a mystery of mine, because we are, in my mind, we are ruining our country. I mean, we've had witnesses up here, not just in this example, but people who represent the Border Patrol, the degree to which, not just this administration, but other administrations as well, don't want to enforce our immigration laws at all, which is, I think, why as a Republican, we're going to get Donald Trump as our nominee, because we have a lot of bad candidates who wouldn't say they'd enforce the immigration laws. But did you ever hear why we don't care to enforce our immigration laws anymore? Is there any speculation you have?
Well, the only thing I hear in California is that we need illegal immigration to work the agriculture area. But that doesn't ring true in Santa Maria. We have many people there who come from different countries under the H-2A laws, and they work there for 6, 7, 8, 9 months and then return. So that argument doesn't seem to really hold water for us.
Okay. Do you feel we ought to do a better job of enforcing our immigration laws?
I'm sorry, sir. Say
Do you think we ought to do a better job of enforcing our immigration laws?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You care to comment on Chief Burbank's comments before?
Well, the only thing I would say, I would like to share with the committee what happened in Santa Maria just 8 weeks ago. We had an increase in homicides for the past year and a half in Santa Maria. Normally, we only have about 3 homicides a year. Last year, in 21 months, or in 15 months, we had about 21 homicides. 8 weeks ago this day, we undertook an operation that had an impact in these homicides. Along with the FBI, along with ATF, we undertook and we led the investigation. We served search warrants at 12 locations, 8 in Santa Maria, some in Bakersfield, some in Ohio, and other areas, culminating in the arrest of approximately 16 people. All 16 people are illegal aliens from either El Salvador or Honduras, and they were all booked for multiple counts of conspiracy to commit murder, and there are other murders that we believe we will be able to prosecute them for later on. So that was just 8 weeks ago on March 3rd. So yes, I am seeing a huge increase in some of the problems we're having.
It would seem to me common sense that if you have somebody breaking the law to come here, well, there may be wonderful people doing that, proportionately they'd be more likely to break other laws, including maybe the laws against murder. Based on your experience in the last 20 months, do you believe that illegal immigrants in Santa Maria are less likely to commit crimes than the native-born?
Are they less likely?
Right, right.
No, I don't believe that. I think it's proportional. I mean, we have a lot of people. Santa Maria's got a 70% Hispanic population. Half of my police force is Hispanic or African American. All right, so they're seeing it on all levels also. But I don't think that, you know, the illegals are, that when they are here, many of them, the only way they support themselves, they're not working the fields, they're committing crimes, just like Victor Martinez was doing. He didn't have a job. You know, he's hooked on methamphetamines, so he makes his living, or he makes his money by stealing.
That to me makes sense. So you would say in general, and there's this myth out there, I think I saw it in some of the stuff that Chief Burbank said, that the illegal immigrants are less likely to commit crimes. I mean, my experience just talking to people in law enforcement, common sense would tell you, here illegally, more likely to commit crimes. Is that your experience? More likely to commit crimes, you think, people who are here illegally?
No, I don't think. Well, let me give you an example. We arrested 500 people for drunk driving. I think it was last year in Santa Maria. Out of the 6,000, 500 were drunk driving cases. I would estimate that about 40% were illegal aliens, and I think they only make up about 20% of our population.
Okay, well, that's kind of shocking.
The gentleman's
That's not
time
even
is
a crime.
expired.
Well, thank you for giving me the extra minute.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Connolly, the gentleman from Virginia. For
Thank
5
you.
minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Burbank, I just heard that last statistic, and that's awfully misleading. I mean, if you want to go down that road, what percentage of black American men as a total population, a part of the U.S. population, and what percentage do they constitute in terms of incarcerated adults?
They are incarcerated at a much higher rate.
Much higher rate. What are we to conclude from that? Don't answer. I would suggest respectfully tread very lightly on what you conclude about that. So the fact that you've got a higher percentage of people who are undocumented, who are arrested in a community that has a lot of undocumented people, I don't know what to conclude from that. There could be good and bad things to be concluded from that, including about policing. I can tell you this, if my police chief were at this table, he would testify that we don't want to essentially federalize our police forces and make them the equivalent of immigration police, because we want the cooperation of the immigrant community, including the undocumented immigrant community, in terms of law enforcement. I can tell you in my community, right across the river, it was because of an undocumented individual we were able to solve a murder by an undocumented individual. We would never have gotten the cooperation of the day labor community, in this case undocumented, with our police if we had not had a different kind of policy where we differentiated our local law enforcement function from that of immigration and customs and so forth. So just a word of caution about that, and Chief, you're more than welcome to comment on that if you wish.
Thank you, Congressman. I have an excellent relationship with the Hispanic community. We have outreach officers that go out into the fields and speak with them all the time. We do have many undocumented people come forward to report crimes. But the question was, do I see an increase or decrease? I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I think it's proportional, as I said. So we have beat coordinators. We have, like I say, 45% of my officers speak Spanish. So I go to every meeting that I'm invited to. So I agree. We're not supposed to be immigration officers. That's not our job.
Right.
But at the same time, we are feeling the impact of the lack of enforcement at the federal and state level.
I understand that, too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Burbank, is deportation just the sort of the answer to all of our immigration problems here? Let's really up the game on deportation, and that will solve everything.
I do not believe it's the answer, personally, no.
Or, really? Why not?
I do not believe it's realistic. And in fact, it is an unfair system in which we don't treat people equally across the board. Then the other thing is border issues and everything else. People come back. We need a system that reforms immigration so individuals can come into the country and work, can come into the country and visit, return home, can come out of the shadows and participate in society. This is not a question of legalization of everybody. This is a question of allowing them to participate so that they understand traffic laws, so that they understand the rules, that they can get the treatment that everyone in society for drug, alcohol, and mental health issues that everyone in society experiences regardless of what their race is or where they may be from.
What is the recidivism rate of deported individuals? I mean, we sometimes act as if deportation is the ultimate answer to a set of problems. But the fact of the matter is, depending on who you are and where you come from, you may illegally enter the United States multiple times even after having been deported. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
And that is because of why?
I think there is a desire to be in this country, and there are family members, there's many issues, but they do not, studies have shown, conducted by research institutes and universities across the nation, that show that individuals, even in multiple returns, are committing crime at a lesser rate.
But even where we've got criminal activity, for example, in Northern Virginia where I live, we've had gang leadership that has been deported back to Central America, only to have them show up again, 4 or 5 months later, and we have to go through the process all over again. So sometimes when we're dealing with criminals, they have a criminal network that also serves to re-inject them, unfortunately, back in this community. And that's a different kind of challenge than simply addressing somebody's status. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and you've just identified the frustration of police chiefs across the nation. The system is broken, and until we reform immigration as a whole, we will not be able to get past some of these loopholes that criminals are finding.
I would just say this, and my final comment, but I think you just put I spent 14 years in local government before coming here, and was chairman of my county. It was the equivalent of being a mayor, 1.2 million people. And that is my feeling, that the federal government has in some ways, by overseeing a broken system, has forced localities and local communities to deal with the consequences of this broken system. And sometimes, as certainly our two grieving parents here give witness to, it leads to tragedy. We've got to fix the system. Thank you.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Carter, the gentleman from Georgia, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all of you for being here. I can only imagine the feelings that you have, and please know that you are in our prayers, and we appreciate your courage for being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, if I could ask you specifically, Victor Martinez Ramirez, he was the illegal alien who killed Air Force veteran Marilyn Ferris. He had been arrested by your police department 6 times in the previous 15 months. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
6 times in the previous 15 months.
Yes, sir.
And it's my understanding he had been released by the Santa Barbara County Jail only 96 hours prior to doing this?
Yes, sir.
Had ICE issued a detainer for this guy?
Not in this particular case. They did provide a detainer in 2014, but that was the only one we knew.
Is your city, Mr. Martin, is your city or Santa Barbara County a sanctuary jurisdiction?
No, sir. The city of Santa Maria is not a sanctuary city, never has been. In fact, I have letters from our city manager, which was authored by our city council, stating specifically they have never voted for at any time in the past or in the present to be a sanctuary city.
Have you ever contacted ICE previously about to request a detainer on someone or on a suspected illegal alien? Have you ever had that experience?
No, sir. What we do is when we arrest someone, the Santa Maria Police Department makes an arrest, we fill out a form that goes with the prisoner to the county jail. Santa Maria Police Department, we don't have a jail for people to put in. We just have a booking processing area. And in this form, we do check the officer, does the officer request an immigration review? And in this particular case for Victor Martinez, we checked yes. So then it would be in the hands of the Sheriff's Department and ICE for them to go down and make the review.
Okay. And you're not sure what happened after that in that particular case?
No, sir.
Okay. Wouldn't you agree that Sheriff, that increased communication between local law enforcement and federal law enforcement would, certain federal law enforcement especially, because obviously they're the ones who are responsible for the immigration enforcement, wouldn't you agree that better communication would obviously benefit everyone in this case?
Yes, sir, I would.
And hopefully keep a tragedy like this from happening again. I mean, obviously, this is obviously not our best work and could qualify as being our worst work. Mr. Chairman, obviously, I'm appalled, as we all are, at what has happened in this particular case and what has happened in many cases like this. And I, you know, especially when you had a veteran who was murdered at the hands of an illegal alien who was in police custody only hours before. Only hours before this person was in police custody. So I want to bring to your attention, Mr. Chairman, other members of the committee, a bill that I have. It's H.R. 4007, the Alerted Act, and it helps to increase communication at all levels of law enforcement, and it ensures that DHS and that ICE are responsive to those inquiries, just like Mr. Martin just indicated, and that is that they will work to make sure that these illegal aliens are indeed checked on and that our immigration laws are enforced. Again, it's H.R. 4007. That's a bill that I'm sponsoring. It's called the Alerted Act. Hopefully it will improve communication between local law enforcement and between the federal government. That's what we need more of. Again, thank you for being here, and again, our condolences. Thank you so much. We appreciate your courage. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank the gentleman from Georgia. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. And first of all, I want to thank the ranking member for asking you to tell us about Casey and Sarah. And if you can, Mr. Martin, tell us a little bit about Marilyn Ferris. We don't want these people to just be statistics. And I watched as people wipe tears. As a dad of 2 daughters, I can't imagine what you've been through. All of us are very, very grateful for you coming. This has been very helpful. Mr. Root, is it true that Mr. Mejia's bail was less than the cost of Sarah's funeral?
It is.
Do you know whether or not Mr. Mejia had a driver's license?
He did not.
Do you know whether or not he ever had one?
I do not know that fact. I know there's no insurance. The vehicle that killed my daughter, I'm not even sure the true owner of that vehicle. It's in the Omaha impound lot right now. Mm-hmm. I heard it was from another illegal roofing contractor from Wichita, Kansas. But, you know, they won't let me take it out of there to get it dusted for prints or whatever you want to say. So.
Okay. Mr. Martin, I listened to Mr. Burbank's response to Chairman CHaffitz about deporting drunk drivers. And frankly, that didn't go over well with me. But I'm going to ask you, do you think we have enough legal citizens who drive drunk without adding illegal immigrant drunk drivers to that number?
Yes, sir.
Do you think it makes sense when we know that they have a record of drunk driving? And I'd like for you to answer that again. You didn't have your microphone on. I ask you if you think we have enough without adding illegal drunk drivers to that.
Yes, sir, we have enough.
Do you think it makes sense when they're picked up for drunk driving, since they're here illegally, regardless of race, national origin, sex, gender? Does it matter? Since they're here illegally and they're breaking our laws, does it make sense for them to stay here?
No, sir, it does not. I view the vehicle just as I would a pistol.
Mm-hmm. And in this case, in Sarah Root's case, it was just as deadly as a pistol, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Burbank, in your last comments, you seem to imply that the American taxpayers should pay for substance abuse treatment for people who are here illegally. Is that what you're saying that we need to do as a nation?
I don't believe I said that.
I believe you did.
American taxpayers. I said that we have demonstrated through restorative justice programs in which substance abuse treatment, that is the direction that we bring people out and they do not reoffend. We are more effective than we are with incarceration.
Okay, but you said that in the context of illegals. And if they're here illegally and they're in these substance abuse programs, you're pretty much saying that we need to invest American taxpayer dollars in providing substance abuse for people who are here illegally. Does that not create another incentive for them to come here illegally?
We have people who exist in this country in all different forms and statuses.
Listen, you're trying to turn this into something that's not, and I'm not going to let you do it. And the chairman probably pulled me out of the chair. But we're sick of this. You've got 3 people here representing families who've lost loved ones. We know that there was 124 people who are here illegally who've committed murders. Just this month, in my home state of Alabama, they've arrested 3 illegals, 2 Hondurans and a Mexican, who were here to do a home invasion, and one of them said that had the family been there with a firearm, he would have shot them. They were arrested, Mr. Martin, by local police in Oxford, Alabama, who were alert enough to see that they were carrying weapons and arrested them. They had prior convictions as well. One of them was carrying a pistol stolen from Arlington, Texas. One of them had a felony that goes back to 2008. It's insane. It's criminal. And you're sitting next to people who have lost 2 of the most precious things they'll ever lose in their lives. And frankly, I find it offensive.
May I respond?
Yes, you may.
So I sympathize with these individuals. In fact, in the year 2000, my friend and colleague lost his life at the hands of an undocumented immigrant. I would not want that person caught, who has never been found. He was held in custody and released. But I would not want that person found at the expense of someone else's constitutional rights or civil rights.
We're not talking about constitutional rights, and I think you have crossed a line in trying to imply that people who are here illegally have the same rights as people who are here legally, who are citizens of the country. And we're not denying people due process. We're not denying them access to the justice system. We're trying to treat people as humanely as we possibly can. But the fact of the matter is, I don't care if it was just one in the last 10 years, it would have been one too many if it were my daughter or my son. I yield back. I recognize Mr. Grothman for 2 minutes.
We don't even need 2 minutes. I just wanted to do a follow-up with Chief Martin. I'd like to thank you for being here today. I see Congressman Connolly had left. I just didn't want to respond a little to his comment. I thought it was completely out of line. I think the implication was completely unwarranted without anything to back it up. I appreciate what you're saying, and I think we see both from Representative Connolly and former Chief Burbank kind of the mentality that we've got to get over in this country if we're going to save our country, because we're going to lose our country unless we begin to take these immigration laws seriously. And we have too many people thinking of any ridiculous pretext under the world not to do the obvious. And we've seen that here today, but I just would like to thank Chief Martin and thank all the other law enforcement officers around the country who I think are doing a tremendous job. I think it's unfortunate so many people want to disparage them. That's all.
I recognize the ranking member for a closing statement.
Again, I want to thank all of you for being here. And I think when we look at this total problem, we have to understand that there's a lot of pain, and rightfully so. And at the same time, when our nation was put together, the founding fathers tried to create all kind of balances so that we keep our people safe, make sure that there's equal protection under the law and a true sense of justice. And sometimes these things seem to kind of collide, but I am convinced that we can do better. I think, and I think that, I mean, as I heard Director Sedania talk, she was clear that there's some things that we need to do, we as members of Congress need to do, perhaps in looking at the code and figuring out things that, ways we can help them be more effective and efficient in what they do. No system, unfortunately, is perfect. None. I practiced law for many years, and I saw a lot of things that will go with me in a negative way until I die. But I think what we have to do as Americans is constantly reach for that more perfect union. Whether we'll ever get there, I don't know, but we need to be striving for it every day. And there's so many people who, and I want us to always be careful, though, and I go back to my opening statement, that we don't just label a group of people, and because I think that's very dangerous, too. Because when we turn against each other, then I think it's almost impossible for us to truly pursue that more perfect union. So that means that we've got to kind of try to address the issues that come out of this. We've got to look at ICE and make sure that ICE is doing what it's supposed to do and all the other agencies. And where there are places that need to be strengthened, we need to do that. But in the end, we want to try to make sure to all of you that these kind of things don't happen again. But we've got to, and again, we may only be able to minimize the possibility. Because, Chief, as you know, things happen. People, even when you have the laws, people find a way to get around them. You know that, because I know you've been in this business long enough. And so, but again, your testimony has been very helpful to all of us. And I really, from the depths of my heart, I thank you. I really do. And I think somebody said it a little bit earlier. You know, you never get over the loss. You don't. You just learn to live with it. You learn to live with it. And you're learning to live with it because it's still new. The idea that you're able to do what you're doing, to come here and speak for your loved ones. And like you said, Ms. Eileen, you know, I think you said something to the effect that I don't want to see her having died in vain. You want to see something come out of this to help somebody else. And that's one of the greatest ways you can deal with it. And we really appreciate it. And you came to the right place.
Well, this is where I wanted to be.
Well, we're glad you came. All of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank all of our witnesses for their appearance here today. If there's no further business without objection, the committee stands adjourned.
Take it. The accused of stealing utensils.
Okay.
A long day for you.
I can get my bag.
Is there anything else happening? We're finished. Yep.
Can I go over there?
Thank you guys again for coming.
Thank you.
Safe travels home.
Thank you.
you very much. Okay. Take it up. Yes. Thank you. Thanks. See you at this.
Coming up on C-SPAN 2, Senate debate on the federal budget